YouTube, ASOth here, Hodgepodge Witch, Hodgepodge Pagan. So I've got my little YouTube book down here, so if you see me looking down here, it's just so I don't ramble. I've done this video once already, and it took me, apparently I had some stuff to get off my chest. So I rambled and rambled and rambled, and that was just too long of a video for me to answer 2 questions, right? So I want to go back, which is me doing right now, and tell you all that I'm going to jump on this Ytpagan challenge. So I am crazy behind. So hopefully I'm going to be able to answer 2 and 3, maybe 2 questions at once, combine them where I can to try to play catch up, and then maybe do 2 or 3 videos in a week to try to play catch up. So with that being said, this is a video on questions 1 and questions 2. So question 1 was, how did you find your path? That's a long story. It's kind of like I didn't really find my path. I was already on it, and then I walked by a sign that said paganism, and I was like, oh, so that's the path I've been on this whole time, the path of paganism. So my dad built my mother a house when they were together, when they were still together, and behind it was just loads and loads of Appalachian woods like this. And I would spend hours and hours just getting to know trees and playing with rocks and building tree forts and chasing squirrels and rabbits and catching butterflies, lightning bugs, whatever I could get my hands on. And then it was like they had a life of their own. And the longer that I sat in the woods and the longer that I stayed there to listen, the more things that I would hear, or the more names of trees that I would know. And I'm not talking like ash, birch, I'm talking like the names of the entity within the trees. I can remember calling trees by name when I was young. I remember talking to the fae when I was young. These are the type of things that if you're a child who grew up in the woods, that you just kind of experience, and you don't have to really have an explanation for it. And then my dad and I talked a lot about, it's a bee. I'm not scared of him, I just don't like getting stung. My dad and I talked a whole lot about the Cherokee Indians, which is part of our heritage. Somewhere longer down the line, we've got Cherokee in us. And then there's this, we're a hodgepodge mix, which comes from the Hodgepodge Pagan Witch. That's where it comes from, is my dad and my family. So my dad's dad, my grandfather, was actually a preacher in was actually a preacher in this little community that they had, and people would come to him for healing. So he would lay him on the porch, and he would have a laying of hands, and anybody that he healed would always say the same thing: well, he healed me with white light. He healed me with white light. So he was, I guess you could call him a healer, obviously, since he healed people. And when people would come to him, when he would heal them, they never came back sick. So those are just the stories that my dad was telling me, of course, that he grew up with. Another thing that my grandfather used to do was take the sting out of bee stings with a laying of hands, or he would sing the stings out. He would hum as he did it, or a snake bite, bee sting, bug bites, anything that really had a burn, even a burn of a fire, he could take the sting off of it, take the pain away. And I guess that comes from being a healer, but that's not really a white light. They call them, in the Appalachian terms, there's a word for it, but I can't remember what it is. My nose is running, excuse me. And he also everybody used to work. Everybody used to work back in the days, whether it was on the farm or wherever, and people used to come to him with I'm doing things my dad did, with warts on their fingers, or warts wherever, and my grandfather would cut them off and put them in a burlap sack with a bunch of herbs, and then go bury them on the property, and they never came back. The warts, not the people, the warts. And so that was one of the first experiences that my dad told me about with healers and white light and all of that stuff, and herbs with Cherokees. And then my dad he used to take me to, we've got like the Wolf Creek Indian Reservation's like an hour and some change. Well, he used to take me there when used to get poison ivy really bad, and they would put jewelweed, I don't even really know, jewelweed on it, and it would just dry up my poison ivy. So he was real into, if we don't have to get Benadryl or whatever and put it on it, or calamine lotion, because I'm poison ivy, man. The wind blows the right direction and I get it. And then my dad also used to have dreams, prophetic dreams. So my best friend was killed when I was 15, and my dad told me prior and then after that he had dreamed that somebody close to me was going to be killed, going to die. And then my first year in college, he kept saying, you need to get your life in order. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around. You need to get your life in order. You need to start making plans. And I'll be damned, my dad passed away from a massive heart attack that year. Probably within about a month of him starting to say all that stuff. And he never told me that he had a dream, but I think it was because he knew that I would freak out, because I learned to listen when he had dreams, when he used to tell me about them. So I believe that things get passed generation or whatever. I believe that everybody has their own innate power, their own innate skill set, or however, that they can adapt and they can grow if they work on them. So I believe that if you want to be a healer but you don't really have any natural whatever, you can train your body to be a healer. So I'm not saying that you can't. You absolutely can. But I do believe that if you already are one thing, that the aptitude kind of follows a generation. So with that being said, I got the dream part from my dad, and the energy manipulation, healing, using in protective spells, whatever, from my grandfather. So when I began looking for psychic phenomenon, nature loving, religion, spirituality, you can guess where I came to. I came into Wicca first, and then within about my freshman year of high school, I was saying, okay, well, Wicca is not for me. If it's for you, that's great. It takes a certain type of person to be Wicca, just like it takes a certain type of person to be Christian. I just know I'm not that certain type of person. I believe that everybody harms none, or not everybody, not that nobody can harm none, not that everybody harms none, that nobody can harm none, because simply by being here, I'm harming somebody. I go walk and I harm the grass, I harm the trees. I live in a house. I live in a place. I drive a car, so I'm constantly harming the environment. So I do not believe in the concept of harm none. So then I became more interested in paganism and shamanism and Hellenistic and the Cherokee, Indian. You just there's just so much out there. So when I was going to church with my aunt, when she used to watch me, I didn't understand why God had to be a male. So that was one of my earliest things. Why does God have to be a guy? Or why is everybody in church so miserable? I remember asking that one time. And I got in really big trouble for that. That was when I was just young. But so about the time that I hit my freshman year, that I really discovered that I was an eclectic pagan or an eclectic witch, because I actually do the witchcraft part. It's not just about a reverence of nature or a reverence of the earth, which is more of a pagan type, or the pagan belief system, or the way that we think, but then also the witchcraft part of it too. And so then I developed the dreams, which I work with guides, with dream interpretation, with sleep magic. So that's kind of what I do, is protective-y, spell-y, sleepy, dreamy, healy energy stuff. Hodgepodge. So that's pretty much how I found my path, is that when I was really young, it was just kind of like, I knew that there were beings in the plants. I knew that there were beings in the birds and the trees, in the ground. Even the ground, when I used to run barefooted, it was like you could just feel a hum in everything. There was always a hum, and I recognize that to be an energy sense or an energy signature. It was just that hum that you realize. So yeah, so that's how I found my path. It was a lot of my dad, a lot of just kind of finding a term that fit me rather than me trying to fit into a term. I didn't want to, I loved who I was. I loved my reverence for nature, so I wanted to keep that. I knew that I was powerful enough to affect things because we were all in this big web, so I needed to find a term that fit that. So yeah, like I said, it was instead of me trying to fit into a little box labeled whatever, I decided to not have a box and just kind of say, well, this is what you get, and we're gonna label it whatever I feel like labeling it. And so it kind of became eclectic paganism, which in turn came to hodgepodge pagan or hodgepodge witch. And the reason that I had somebody post a comment on there, is hodgepodge paganism like eclectic paganism? Yes, it's exactly like that. It's just that everybody who says they're eclectic kind of has their own thing that they do. So if I have my own thing, why can't I really call it what I want? It's going to be eclectic paganism or eclectic witchcraft or eclectic shamanism or whatever that I've just combined. But for me, it's just called hodgepodge. Just because that term, it's just my dad and I used to say hodgepodge all the time. So hodgepodge is just one of those terms that's specific and special to me. These bees are everywhere today. So that's question 1. How do you find your path? And on that, I really don't think that anybody ever... I don't know what that bird is doing. Oh, feeding babies. Okay. I don't believe that anybody ever really... It's kind of like you're on a path, and then there's a little trail that comes off your path and circles back. And trail. So, say that you're on your path of eclectic paganism, and then, what's shamanism? And then, okay, well, I'm going to take the stuff that I gathered here and come back to my path. See what I'm saying? So, every experience that we've ever had, we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still evolving, so you're going to continue to find your path. You're going to continue to find out who you are. And just don't label yourself in a box. Just don't try to fit yourself into whatever little neat cage that anybody wants you to fit in. Just be whoever you are. And then do research until you find something that fits with you, and then bring it to you. Say, this is who I am. A wild woman. If you don't want to fit into that Wicca, witchcraft, hodgepodge, eclectic Wicca, if you just want to be wild woman or wild person or warrior, adopt an archetype type name. I'm a warrior or a warrioress, or I'm a priestess, or whatever. You don't have to fit into anything. So, yeah. Question 2. Are you in the broom closet? Are you in or out of the broom closet? I am out of the broom closet. I'm not one of those type of people who will run around and bang pots and pans or whatever in somebody's face and dance around saying, hey, I'm a pagan, hey, I'm a witch, whatever. But if anybody knows, I've pinnacles everywhere. There's stones and herbs all the time. I've got gardens. I've got my skull guy here. Not that all of those things are witches, but they're the things that are sacred to me. So if anybody were to ask me, are you pagan, are you Wicca, are you whatever, then I'm going to tell them. I'm not going to lie to somebody. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be true to myself, because that's just who I am. So if somebody says, are you Christian? Well, no, I'm not. Do you go to church? Nature is my church. No, I don't really go to church. I have a ton of sacred space, and sacred space can be anywhere. But that's on another question. So, are you in or out of the broom closet? I am very out of the broom closet. And yeah, so I guess that's the first video. It's under 15 minutes. The last time it was really, really long, like I said. So those are my first 2 questions, and I hope you all will enjoy this video and comment, whatever, like, subscribe, and yeah, you all have a fantastic day, and blessed be.